My name's Kevin Aguanno. I've been a project manager for a long time, many years, over 25 years, and in that time I've specialized in many different types of projects. Spent much of my time in IT and systems integration and software development projects, but I've also worked across industries in non-IT projects as well. Business process re-engineering, mergers and acquisitions, where two companies are merging together and all their policies and procedures are changing, even in engineering and construction projects. So I've had quite a breadth of experience. And I've written many books on project management related topics. So I'm going to share with you today something really interesting. There's something called a stakeholder matrix. Now, stakeholder matrices kind of made their appearance in the 1990s. There's many different flavors of them. I'm going to be showing you the most common approach to stakeholder matrices. And the main reason for a stakeholder matrix is to try and categorize the stakeholders in a number of ways, in a couple different dimensions, to help us figure out how we're going to respond to these stakeholders, because frankly some stakeholders are more important to us than others. So how do we define which stakeholders are the ones which we're going to spend our time on? It's basically a 2x2 matrix, and we have different parameters along the X and Y axes. The most common structure for this is to measure the power or influence of the stakeholders on one axis and how interested they are in the project on the other axis. There's other things we could put on the axes, but these are the two most common dimensions that we look at. And they range from low to high. This approach has been around, as I said, since the 90s. It's been published in many books, and many people have used it successfully. There's a lot on there. If you Google it, you'll find lots of examples. Now, in this process, the first step we do is identify who all our stakeholders are and place them within the stakeholder matrix on these two dimensions. So we can see, for example, on the screen, Jose has a relatively low level of power or influence over the project and has a low level of interest in the project as well. While Francine has a low level of interest, the amount of power or influence she could have over the project is a bit higher. And Michelle has very high power influence. She's a very powerful executive, but her interest in the project is somewhat lower than average. Tak Kung Sin is very high level of interest in the project, but doesn't have a lot of power influence. So he's keenly interested, but doesn't have much sway over things. And I guess the two most powerful and interested in stakeholders are Abdul and Mark. Both of those have a reasonably high level of power influence and have a lot of interest in the project. Those might be stakeholders we want to focus on a bit more. Well, we can label these quadrants, and the labels in these quadrants define how we're going to address these individuals. So, for example, the lower left quadrant, low power and low interest, that would be Jose, those stakeholders we just monitor. I'm not going to take any active action to manage those stakeholders directly. We're just going to monitor them to see if their interest changes or if their level of power changes. We're just going to keep an eye on those, but not take any direct action to accommodate them necessarily. However, if somebody has low power but keen interest in the project, like Tak Kung, those ones we're going to keep informed. We're going to take action and make sure they're in tune with what's going on. Because of their level of interest, they're going to want to be reaching out to us for information updates constantly. So we want to make sure that we keep them informed of the ongoings of the project. If we don't, they can start to make trouble for us. Now, their level of power influence is low, but if you completely ignore these stakeholders, they can start to make trouble for the project team. So we want to make sure they keep informed. We give them updates, we give them the project newsletter or the email blasts, or keep them updated, copy them on our status reports. Just keep them in the loop. Stakeholders who have high levels of power obviously need to be dealt with a little bit differently, a little bit more sensitively. Now, the stakeholders with high power but low interest means they're fairly senior executives but aren't really that concerned in my project. I just want to make sure I keep them satisfied, make sure I've addressed their minimum needs, make sure they're generally okay with how we're going. This might mean not overwhelming them with status reports and everything, but making sure that they're aware that their key concerns have been addressed so they don't have to interfere in our project with all that power. And the stakeholders in the top right, the ones with high power and high interest, those ones we want to manage very closely, because not only are they keenly interested in the project, they're watching us closely, but they have the power and the influence to either make us succeed or make trouble for us. So they're the ones we're going to spend extra special time with. So the stakeholder matrix is a way of categorizing these stakeholders to figure out our strategy for responding to them. So that's another way of managing our analyzing and graphically mapping our stakeholders. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure. And remember, email me at any time, kevin@agilepm.com, if you have any further questions on this topic. Thank you.